There is something magnetic about a woman who fully embraces who she is. Not the version society wants her to be, not the filtered, photoshopped idea curated for approval, but the raw, real, unedited truth of her. That woman. She walks into a room and doesn't need to say a word. Her presence says it all. There's power in that kind of authenticity. There's freedom in not needing to perform, to edit, or to shrink. The moment you decide that you will no longer betray yourself just to be liked or accepted, you begin to walk in your truth, and everything in your life starts to shift. You don't owe anyone the watered down version of yourself. You don't have to smile when something hurts, agree when your soul disagrees, or stay silent to make someone else comfortable. You were not created to be small. You are not designed to fit into someone else's mold. Your truth, your voice, your experiences, your story isn't just valid, it's necessary. See, there are people who will never fully understand you, and that's okay. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to be at peace with yourself. Walking in your truth means saying yes only when you mean it and saying no without guilt. It means showing up as your whole self, whether you're celebrated or criticized. It's waking up every day and choosing to be loyal to yourself first. So many people spend years living for someone else's opinion, someone else's dreams, someone else's timeline. And in doing so, they lose their spark. But the moment you start living in alignment with your truth, you become radiant. You glow differently. You stop performing and start being. Let people think what they want. Let them assume, gossip, judge. You are not here to be everyone's favorite. You are here to be real. There is no amount of perfection you can achieve that will protect you from someone else's judgment. So why waste your energy trying to be perfect for people who don't even know your heart? Walking in your truth means choosing yourself even when it's hard, even when it's unpopular, even when it feels like you're standing alone. Because eventually, the right people, the ones who see you, value you, feel you, will find you. And they won't be drawn to some version of you that you curated for approval. They'll be drawn to the real you. The you who isn't afraid to say, this is who I am. Take it or leave it. But here's the beautiful part. When you live in your truth, you give permission for others to do the same. You become a mirror for other women who've been silenced, conditioned, or caged by expectation. You remind them that they too can be bold. They too can be whole. Your truth becomes a revolution. It becomes a ripple effect. Because in a world that profits off our insecurity, authenticity is an act of rebellion. You don't need to over-explain yourself. You don't need to be agreeable all the time. You don't need to bend backwards to make people stay. Walking in your truth might cost you relationships. It might cost you opportunities, but it will give you something no one else can take away. Peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing that you didn't abandon yourself just to be accepted. That you didn't fake a smile, fake a life, fake your joy just to keep the world comfortable. That kind of peace is sacred, and that's what makes you powerful. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to outgrow people, places, and patterns that no longer serve you. Walking in your truth doesn't mean you have all the answers. It doesn't mean you don't make mistakes. It means you are honest about your journey. You are honest about your healing, your desires, your boundaries, and your voice. There's a confidence that doesn't come from how you look, what you wear, or who approves of you. It comes from being deeply connected to your truth. From knowing that no matter what the world throws at you, you will not abandon yourself. That is how you walk in your truth. Not perfectly, not loudly, but with grace, with courage, and with an unshakable commitment to being real. There comes a point in your life when you realize that not everything and not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Your peace, your calm, your clarity, your emotional well-being is sacred. It's not up for negotiation. And protecting it doesn't make you rude, it makes you wise. It means you finally learn that your energy is a currency and you're done spending it on anything that drains you. You're not here to carry chaos in your spirit just to keep the peace on the outside. That's not peace, that's performance, and you've outgrown that. Protecting your peace is about learning how to step away from things that disturb your soul, even if they once felt familiar. It's about choosing silence over drama, boundaries over people-pleasing, and solitude over forced company. You don't owe your presence to anyone who doesn't respect your energy. You don't have to keep answering every call, showing up to every event, or engaging in every conversation that pulls you out of alignment. Protecting your peace means recognizing that access to you is a privilege and not everyone gets to have it. There are people who thrive on dysfunction. They don't know who they are without conflict, chaos, or crisis. And if you're not careful, they'll drag you into their storm and call it love. Don't fall for it. You are not responsible for fixing people who refuse to grow. You are not obligated to absorb their pain, their projections, or their patterns. Your peace is not a dumping ground for other people's unresolved wounds. You can be compassionate without being consumed. You can care without carrying. You can love without losing yourself. Peace is not just the absence of noise, it's the presence of boundaries. It's waking up and choosing yourself, not out of selfishness, but out of deep self respect. It's understanding that sometimes loving yourself means disappointing others. And that's okay. You're not here to live for someone else's comfort. You're here to live in truth. And that truth will sometimes require separation. And that's not cruelty, it's clarity. When you protect your peace, you become more intentional with your time, your words, your energy. You stop moving out of obligation and start moving from intuition. You begin to understand that rest is not laziness. Saying no is not rejection. Wanting space is not a betrayal. It's necessary. It's sacred. It's what keeps you grounded. And the more you honor that, the more magnetic your presence becomes. Peace allows you to hear your own voice. It gives you space to breathe, to think, to feel. It's the quiet strength behind your decisions. It's the reason you smile without a reason, laugh without a script, and glow without validation. It's why you walk away from conversations that feel heavy and relationships that feel forced. Because you know that you are no longer available for anything that disturbs your inner harmony. You've earned this peace. You fought for it through heartbreak, through doubt, through noise. So guard it. Be fierce about it. You don't need to argue with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone who questions it. You don't need to stay in spaces where your spirit feels small. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to simply walk away, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. Because protecting your peace is choosing to rise above. It's choosing to stay grounded in your joy, your softness, your truth, even when the world around you is chaotic. It's okay to unplug. It's okay to go quiet. You're allowed to choose stillness. You don't need to be constantly available, constantly performing, constantly explaining. Your peace doesn't need permission. It needs protection. And that might look like fewer friends, tighter boundaries, and a whole lot of solitude. But what it gives you in return is worth everything. Clarity, focus, sanity, strength. When you protect your peace, you become more powerful. Because you're no longer moved by every storm. You don't respond to every trigger. You don't react to every provocation. You move differently. You move with intention. You move with grace. And in that space, you create a life that reflects your truth, your purpose, and your worth. Not because you fought for control, but because you chose peace over everything. There is something undeniably powerful about a woman who is completely focused on her own growth. A woman who wakes up in the morning and puts her energy into becoming the best version of herself instead of chasing validation from others. When you begin to chase your dreams harder than you chase people, you start to unlock a version of yourself that is not dependent on attention, approval, or presence. You realize that love is beautiful, connection is important, but purpose is everything. Dreams don't chase you back. They wait for you to decide. They wait for you to stop doubting yourself and start believing that you're worthy of the life you've imagined. Too often, we get caught up in chasing people who are not even running in the same direction. People who don't see us, don't value us, or don't know how to love us the way we deserve. We pour our time, our energy, our softness into trying to be enough for them. And in the process, we forget to be enough for ourselves. There's a certain heartbreak that comes from chasing people who don't want to be caught. And if you felt that, then you know what I'm talking about. That empty feeling of giving so much and getting nothing in return. That ache of trying to hold on to someone who was never meant to stay. But here's the thing. When you redirect that same energy into your own dreams, something shifts. You go from feeling powerless to powerful. You stop waiting for someone to choose you, and instead, you choose yourself. You realize you don't need to be in a room where you're not celebrated. You don't need to be loved wholeheartedly. And you definitely don't need to chase someone who isn't running toward you with the same fire. So you switch paths. You choose to chase that degree, that career, that business, that book, that art, that vision that's been burning in your spirit. Because that dream is yours. It's personal, it's sacred, and it's not something you should delay for anyone. When you chase your dreams, you begin to build a life that doesn't rely on someone else showing up. You learn how to stand on your own. You develop discipline, direction, and desire, not because someone told you to, but because you decided your future was worth the fight. That's when you become dangerous in the best possible way. You're no longer chasing love, you're attracting it. You're no longer asking for opportunities, you're creating them. You're no longer begging to be chosen, you are the one who chooses. You have every right to fall in love, to want connection, to desire companionship. But those things should never come at the cost of your dreams. A relationship should never require you to put your life on hold, shrink your ambition, or silence your voice. The right person will never ask you to choose between love and purpose. In fact, the right one will cheer you on. They'll be inspired by your drive, not intimidated by it. And they'll want to build with you, not compete with you. But even before that person comes along, you need to become the kind of woman who can thrive on her own. A woman who doesn't fear being alone because she's too busy building her empire. A woman who is so in love with her vision that she doesn't settle for half-baked affection or empty promises. You owe it to yourself to chase your goals with the same passion you once gave away so easily to people who didn't deserve it. Every hour spent crying over someone who didn't see your worth could have been a chapter in your next success story. Let that sink in. You have a fire inside you, a dream that's waiting to be birthed, a life that's meant to be lived fully. So let go of the chase that leads nowhere. Choose the path that leads back to yourself. Show up for your dream like it's your greatest love story, because it is. Fall in love with your own potential. Obsess over your own growth. Be the kind of woman who walks away from anything that asks her to be less than extraordinary. Because when you start chasing your dreams harder than you chase people, the right people, real ones, start chasing you. There's a kind of presence that can't be taught. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's not about who's wearing the most expensive clothes or who gets the most attention. It's something deeper. It's energy. It's the way someone walks into a space and doesn't have to say a word, but you feel them. You notice them, not because they demand it, but because they embody it. That's what it means to own the room before you even speak. It's not about ego. It's about energy. It's about alignment. It's about the quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly who they are. When you truly own the room, it's not about being better than anyone else. It's about no longer shrinking to make anyone else feel comfortable. It's about knowing that you are not there to blend in, and you're certainly not there to apologize for your existence. It's not arrogance, it's presence. And that presence comes from a woman who has done the work, who has faced herself, who carries both fire and grace in equal measure. She doesn't need to prove anything. Her energy speaks before her mouth ever does. Confidence is not volume. It's not about how loudly you talk or how aggressively you present yourself. Real confidence is quiet. It's steady. It's rooted. It's the way you walk, the way you make eye contact, the way you hold your head up. Not in defiance, but in dignity. When you own the room, you're not performing. You're just being real, being whole, being you. And that kind of authenticity is powerful because it's rare. The truth is, people can sense insecurity before they even hear it. They can also sense confidence. And confidence doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from being grounded. When you know what you stand for, what you believe in, and who you are beyond what the world sees, you become magnetic. You don't need everyone to like you because you already like yourself. You don't need to chase attention because your energy commands it naturally. That's what owning the room really is. It's an inner state, not an outer show. You don't need a certain title, income, or social status to walk like you belong. You belong because you decide you do. You belong because you carry yourself like someone who has already claimed her seat at the table. And if there's no table, you build your own. When you stop looking for external validation, you stop shrinking in rooms where your power could be misunderstood. You stop explaining yourself, overthinking your presence, or diluting your opinions. You show up fully. And that fullness is captivating. The way you carry yourself is your introduction. Before anyone knows your resume, your story, or your soul, they feel your energy. So, what are you radiating? Are you carrying the weight of past rejection, or are you walking in the wisdom you gained from it? Are you second guessing yourself, or are you moving with purpose? Your posture, your tone, your silence, it all tells a story. So tell one that reflects the strength you've built, the healing you've done, the lessons you've lived through. Own that. And here's the beautiful thing, you don't need to be loud to be heard. Sometimes the most powerful woman in the room is the one who listens first, speaks last, and carries herself with quiet assurance. She doesn't rush to fill silence because she's not uncomfortable in it. She doesn't dominate the space, but she owns it, just by being fully present, fully authentic, and fully herself. You weren't born to dim your light. You weren't made to walk into a room and hope to be accepted. You were born to walk in with your head high, knowing that your story, your scars, your strength, and your softness all have value. Every room you walk into is lucky to have you in it, not the other way around. So the next time you enter a space, don't shrink, don't doubt, don't defer your power. Walk in like you've already earned your place, because you have. There's a kind of freedom that comes when you no longer grip life so tightly, when you no longer try to force what isn't flowing, beg to be seen, or hold on to what keeps trying to leave. That freedom, it's found in detachment, not in a cold, emotionless way, but in a powerful, self-aware way. To master the art of detachment is to master the art of trusting yourself. It's about releasing your need to control every outcome and finally making peace with the truth that what's meant for you will never miss you, and what misses you was never you. We are conditioned to believe that if we care about something, we must cling to it, hold on, fix it, fight for it, even when it's clearly draining us. But real strength isn't in holding on, it's in knowing when to let go. And detachment doesn't mean you stop loving or caring. It means you no longer abandon yourself in the process. You stop tying your worth to whether someone stays or whether something works out the way you planned. You stop letting your happiness be dictated by the unpredictable nature of life and other people. You start choosing yourself first. When you master detachment, you begin to understand that not everything deserves your reaction. Not every text needs a reply. Not every argument needs your voice. Not every invitation needs your presence. You become intentional about your energy. You learn to observe without absorbing, to love without losing, to give without guilt. You're no longer pulled in 100 directions by expectations and emotions that don't serve your peace. Because now you value your peace more than you value pleasing people who never even understood your worth. Detachment teaches you that closure is not something someone else gives you, it's something you decide for yourself. It's the moment you stop needing an apology. It's the day you no longer rehearse what you wish you'd said. It's the quiet decision to heal, even if no one else takes responsibility. That's what detachment is, choosing your healing over your history, choosing to be present instead of being stuck in a loop of what ifs, is, and if onlys, choosing your power over your past. You don't have to chase love. You don't have to chase clarity. You don't have to chase peace. The things that are aligned with your growth will find you when you stop chasing and start allowing. That's the magic of detachment. It clears the space for what's real. When your hands are no longer full of things you're forcing to stay, you have space to receive what's meant to come. And what comes when you stop forcing is always better than what you were begging for. Detachment doesn't mean you're numb. It means you're wise. It means you've learned that clinging too tightly can become a form of self-sabotage. That sometimes letting go is an act of love for yourself and the other person. You realize you can love deeply and still walk away. You can hope for the best and still prepare to release it. You stop measuring success by permanence and start measuring it by peace. You stop fearing endings and start embracing transitions as part of your evolution. And with detachment comes power. Power to walk away from things that once made you question your worth. Power to breathe without the weight of unspoken expectations. Power to live without the fear of losing things that were never fully yours to begin with. You rise above the noise, above the need to constantly prove, explain, or chase. You sit in your knowing. And from that place, you attract everything meant for you effortlessly. When you're detached, you're not cold, you're calm, you're not bitter, you're better. You're not distant, you're discerning. You start choosing what feels good to your soul over what looks good on paper. You start protecting your energy like it's sacred, because it is. And you stop asking for things that require you to lose your dignity to keep them. There's no greater flex than being at peace with what walks away and deeply grateful for what stays. To master detachment is to reclaim your emotional freedom. It's to know deeply and unshakably that you are enough, not because of who stays, but because of how deeply you stay true to yourself. That's where your power lives, not in clinging, but in releasing. There is a world of difference between being liked and being unforgettable. Liked is safe, it's easy, it's agreeable, it's predictable. It often comes from playing small, from being pleasing, from avoiding conflict and smoothing your edges so everyone feels comfortable. But unforgettable. Unforgettable is bold. It's raw. It's magnetic. It's the kind of presence that lingers long after you've walked out of the room. Not because you were trying to impress, but because you were unapologetically you. And that is what leaves a mark. When you chase being liked, you dilute your truth. You say yes when you mean and no. You smile when you're tired. You stay silent when you should speak. You mold yourself into whatever shape you think will be accepted in the moment. But when you decide to be unforgettable, you stop shape shifting. You stop minimizing your magic to avoid rejection. You walk in your authenticity even when it shakes the room, because you understand that not everyone will get you. And that's okay. You weren't made for everyone, you were made to be real. People pleasing may keep you liked, but it will never make you powerful. It will never make you remembered. It will never earn you the kind of love that's deep, loyal, and lasting. Because the truth is, people don't fall in love with the version of you that's careful. They fall in love with the version of you that's true. The version that's passionate, opinionated, a little wild, a little messy, but always authentic. That's the version that makes people feel something. And feeling something, that's what makes someone unforgettable. Being unforgettable doesn't mean being loud or flashy or constantly performing. Sometimes it's your quiet strength, your grace under pressure, your ability to walk away from something that no longer serves you with your head held high. Sometimes it's your kindness in a room full of ego, your honesty in a world addicted to pretenses, your refusal to settle for anything less than what sets your soul on fire. These are the things that echo. These are the moments that live in people's minds long after the conversation is over. When you decide to be unforgettable, you start focusing less on how many people like you and more on how deeply you live. You start prioritizing truth over popularity, passion over politeness, legacy over convenience. You become less concerned with trends and more in tune with your own frequency. You stop trying to fit in and start standing out, not for attention, but for alignment. Because now you understand that being remembered isn't about being perfect. It's about being real in a world that constantly asks you to filter yourself. You become unforgettable when you stop seeking permission. When you start trusting your own voice, your own path, your own timing, you wear what makes you feel alive. You pursue dreams that scare you in the best way. You speak with intention and you listen with presence. You make people feel seen, not because you're trying to win them over, but because you see yourself so clearly that you naturally create space for others to do the same. That is power. That is impact. The woman who is unforgettable doesn't just walk into a room, she shifts it. Not because she's trying to, but because her energy is undeniable. She's anchored in her values. She's unbothered by surface level validation. She doesn't compete, she creates. She doesn't follow, she leads. And even if she walks away from something or someone, her presence still lingers. Not because she stayed, but because she showed up as her whole self. And that's not something people forget. You weren't born to be liked. You were born to ignite, to awaken, to disrupt, to inspire, to shake things up simply by showing up as who you are. So let them call you too much. Let them call you intense, intimidating, complicated. Let them call you whatever they want, as long as they remember you. Because your truth will always outlive their comfort. And that's unforgettable.